And on this episode of the worst comparison in human history, we have this from Screen Rant. Daredevil Born Again is like Game of Thrones in one key way, according to MCU boss. And what he means by that ridiculous statement, we have this right here. He says, imagine if New York City was intricate and problematic and scary as the world of Game of Thrones. It already is. It's New York City. It's the crappiest crime-ridden place of all human history, and they haven't gotten things right in decades. It already is like Game of Thrones. Back to the quote. All these forces vying for control, and it can be really hopeful at times. No, it's not. It's New York City. There's no hope whatsoever. And really violent at times. Yes, all the time. And dark, but also there's light at the end of the tunnel if you can just fight for it. Let it sink into the sea. That's my opinion of New York City. But back to this show in comparison to Game of Thrones. I would have never said the word Game of Thrones ever when I want to promote a product. The way Game of Thrones ended, and the way that House of the Dragons is going now, where it started off really strong in Season 2, a lot of people don't seem to be a big fan of it, I would distance myself from that entirely. This is what my conspiracy theory of Daredevil is. I said this before when they first announced the show, and they were talking about how they apparently fired a bunch of people, and they filmed a couple of episodes, and they said, we can't possibly show this to the public. So they cut all this footage away and redid all of it. And when people heard it, like, wow, they've listened to the audience. They're finally realizing the things we want. I'm thinking no. I'm thinking that the original Daredevil Born Again, what they filmed, was already great. The problem was it didn't have that special little DEI, diversity and inclusion in it, that Disney just so desperately needs these days. So they scrapped it all, put out this story that, oh yeah, we're redoing everything. And it's just going to be exactly what we think it's going to be. There is no way you can tell me that the people at Marvel, the people that gave us, the last time we saw Daredevil was in She-Hulk. You cannot tell me the company that did that is going to somehow do this show right. No. No, I don't believe that for a single solitary second. And with Game of Thrones, with a comparison of it, that, it's dark and gritty. Yeah, the Netflix one was perfect. Dare I say, there are very few shows that I would say were fantastic from start to finish. I would say the Netflix Daredevil show was certainly one of my favorites at the time. Certainly one of my favorite series at that time. It did, with all the MCU shows they were making at that time, with Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Punisher, I think Daredevil, also the Defenders too, but Daredevil was the best one, and it wasn't even remotely close. Like, I would say, Daredevil number 1, and then Punisher number 2. There's a big gap between those two. Both fantastic, but Daredevil was head and shoulders above everything. So when you're telling me with this TV show, it's gonna be so dark and violent, and New York City, what a violent and problematic place. Yeah, bro. You put on the news, you know how bad New York City already is. And really quickly about the Daredevil show, for those of you who watched Echo, it's all the episodes. I've reviewed all the episodes on my channel. I had a lot of fun watching that show. It was awful. But the ending of that show, people really fight with me online about this. I really don't understand why. At the end of the show, Echo, she turned the Kingpin into a good person afterwards. Because she fingered him and took away his pain and trauma from childhood. And that essentially would make him obviously a better person, right? But it's not going to matter because we know he's going to be a bad guy in this show. We know the Kingpin and Daredevil are going to fight later on. So the entirety of Echo is null and void now. You filmed a show that was bad, that has zero impact whatsoever going forward. You have to be truly a failure at your craft if you made a show and they're just gonna negate it with another show and take away the biggest and most impactful moment of that entire show was taking away the pain of the Kingpin, and now you're just gonna make him a bad guy in Daredevil. what was the point of that show? For me, it was hysterical content. I loved every second of reviewing that show. But for the MCU, nothing. You could have eliminated that show entirely and just nothing changes. So Daredevil Born Again, I would say, little to no faith at all in this show. Of course, I'm going to watch it out of pure curiosity and for reviewing purposes, but out of my own entertainment and intrigue, no. None whatsoever. No interest whatsoever, because I don't think Charlie Cox's Daredevil is really going to jump into the MCU going forward. I don't really see him teaming up with anyone. I could be wrong. Obviously we might get him in Secret Wars, but I don't think he's really equipped for that battle. I don't think normal Daredevil is really going to do anything against any supernatural force. So with these other MCU shows, like this one and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and the Punisher and stuff like that, it makes sense to keep them grounded. However, with the way the MCU has expanded over the years, does the Punisher know that aliens exist? Does Daredevil know that aliens exist? I have another video I want to make about that. Just think about the Punisher for a second. His brain is constantly in a state of fear and panic. I think they said something like that in one of the episodes of Daredevil when the Punisher was on trial, that his brain is broken, and that's why he's like this. Now throw in alien invasion in New York City in the mix. What would that do to this dude? You think he would just be, I don't know, fighting drug dealers after that? No. What would Daredevil do? If you find out, yes, I'm doing nothing but fighting thugs and child traffickers, like, oh yeah, here's a portal in the sky with an alien invasion coming through. Oh look, here's this giant green guy's jumping through the air. I guess I'll just go practice law tomorrow. No. If anything, I think all of these shows, the Defenders universe, should just take place in their own world and that's it. I don't think any of these people should be remotely connected to our universe in any way, shape, or form. I think putting them with our MCU heroes is just a really bad idea because it doesn't make any sense at all to me. But sorry, I digress. Daredevil Born Again, it ain't gonna work. Game of Thrones comparisons are just a terrible, terrible strategy. And dare I say, this show, it might get some good numbers the first week, because people like me that watched the Netflix ones and loved it so much, we're gonna watch it out of pure curiosity. But I think just like with all MCU shows, that it's just gonna die out by the finale. And that's about it. But in the end, what do you guys think about that?
Sand and shadows, dust and dread, chasing ghosts where the pharaohs bled, with a gun in my hand and fate in my stride, in the city of the dead.